What did we think of this? Like, first, who finished? Everyone did. Wow, I just finished right now.
I finished because I was driving a lot today.
Nice.
It's a good audiobook driving one.
Yeah. It seems like it would be. It's dramatic.
Yeah. I feel like I should have listened to this
so
part.
Dramatic.
I finished it Saturday morning and I was like, oh, I try to chunk it out, because I like, if I had my way, I would just read it the day before or the day of, but with school, I can't guarantee I'll have time. So I started on the weekend and then I just finished the whole thing and I was like, oh my gosh, it's getting good. Oh, there she is.
I was gonna say it's super dramatic in every way.
Every way.
I love you so much more than you love them. They love each other. I was like, what
It's
what
the
original emo book.
Yeah.
It's literally like what people put on Tumblr and stuff, but it's the 1800s.
That is a perfect description of that. So, oh my gosh.
But it's the romance that I like. It's very angsty and emo, but it's not it doesn't make my chest feel tight reading it. It's just kind of dramatic.
Yeah.
Because we know that these people have a messed up relationship.
Yeah.
There's nothing to support here.
Maybe too, it's because we're hearing it from the housekeeper's point of view too, and we kind of know it's already passed, so it's not as urgent as if we considered it as happening in the present.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that of all the characters, the one that seems to have the most sense is the housekeeper, but also it is her story, so we are getting her perspective, because it seems like she's the only one that really can see what's going on and is trying to give people advice, but no one's taking it. Everyone's just kind of making choices based on maybe their emotions, but not based on maybe what would be best.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think it's Emily, right? That wrote it?
Yeah.
She chose the perspective of a housekeeper and not Catherine or Heathcliff.
Maybe because she has access to all of them in different ways. If it was just Heathcliff, he wouldn't know all the things that the housekeeper knows about the other characters. And if it was just Catherine, she wouldn't know some of the other things, but she kind of, because she's the servant and they ask her, do you think she's kind of privy to more of their emotions and secrets and what they're really going through, I feel, but she goes amongst all of them.
Kind of reminded me of Downton Abbey.
Well, and it's narrated by in the audiobook, it's narrated by the person from Downton Abbey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. By what was her name? The one who married Mr. Bates. The blonde one.
Amy, Mary.
Anna?
One of those.
Yeah.
Anna, yeah.
She's the one that narrates the audiobook. She's doing a really good job, actually. She's
Oh.
doing different accents for different characters. Actual different accents, because the servants sound more I don't know what the proper word is, but more low accent versus yeah. She's doing and then the Joseph, it's you cannot understand what he's saying because his accent is so crazy, but it kind of works because then you can really keep track of all the characters.
Weirdly enough, I understand the audiobook. I didn't listen to this section, but I listened to the first section, and I can't understand it while I'm reading it. But the audiobook or the audible, I'm I can understand completely to a T what Joseph is saying. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I'm is this my language?
It's your vernacular.
Not. The narrator just did a really good job.
Yeah. When I'm reading it, I kind of skim through it because it's hard.
difficult. It's
And what we're used to, right? For sure.
you have
Yeah.
to do the accent yourself, and then I'm just like, like
I like try, but then I feel like I'm going too slow, and then I'm like, this is not
yeah,
me.
you have to. I feel like I have to go fast, but then
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what is he really trying to say? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that the chapters are short though, because sometimes I would kind of go back and read them again if I kind of was like, wait, what's happening? But definitely different. And I'm finding a lot of words I don't know, so I'm looking up some of them. But it's funny because like for work, I'm doing this program called Letters, and right now the unit's all about vocabulary and why it's important. And I'm just like, oh, like, perfect example right here with this book.
From back to your question, Katie, I wonder if she chose the perspective of a servant because it almost like maybe she wasn't trying to romanticize everything, and the servant was kind of bringing it down to earth by kind of like having this perspective where she's just kind of like, oh my God, these people are like not being logical and are just,
They're so
doing all
dumb.
these things to kind of hurt each other. And I feel like if it was from the perspective of like Heathcliff, or like from the perspective of Kathy or Catherine, or from the perspective of her husband, it would be a very different book because they all have these like strong perspectives and emotions, and the only like truly neutral party is Nellie. And she's coming at it kind of from like this servant's perspective, where she's just kind of like looking at these people being like, what are you doing?
That makes sense too.
It also makes me wonder, maybe Emily witnessed like a similar thing, or maybe she talked to the servant. I don't know much about her life other than that she died young.
I
could have
don't
heard a
think she
story.
lived at home a lot of the time. I don't think that she had a very like social life. So maybe she was really close with the servants.
It seems like she would be. I feel like if you didn't have a good relationship with your servant, I mean, we're not in those times where, we have
Makes sense,
servants, but I've seen it in movies and other shows where
They can screw you over.
there's very few that treat them right, or, so I feel like in her, because she's not, she's given her the main role, even though obviously the other people are the protagonists. She's in a way like pretty much saying like she was a good person, she had a good connection with her, and I don't know, maybe she was trying to be different, but I don't think so. And I mean, it was only her only book, so we can't really compare or say much what she was trying to do. I don't know. This is the first classic book I ever read, so I don't know if people back then did this. Anybody know?
Did what?
The perspective of like an outsider. What do they call that?
Third person narrator.
Yeah.
None of the other ones I've read. I think most of them have just been like the omniscient narrator.
Yeah, I don't think I've encountered that before, but there's still like a lot of classic books that I haven't read, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I feel like I can't say if it's more modern to be with one main person or not, or if
I feel like in Dracula, it's like it hops around between a lot of different characters in a first person. And I feel like because it's in first person and stuff's happening, it's quite a different story, but I feel like it is really intense because they're talking about their feelings directly, all the other books I haven't read a ton either, classic, but I feel like from what I recall, it's just that omniscient narrator. That's not really a character.
Yeah.
Like even the technically like the I guess the protagonist really is the Mr. Longfellow, right? He's the protagonist, and he's like barely in the book, and his mostly seems really annoying.
Yeah,
like it's not likable at all.
He just wants to know the cheese man.
Yeah. Like, is he supposed to represent us, like wanting to know the gossip?
Wait, Lockwood.
I was just gonna say when Corinna said the cheese man, I was like, well, I mean, I like Cheeseman.
No, we do, yeah.
When you said it.
Maybe there can be separate categories, annoying
Yeah.
and wanting the tea, yeah. What did you all think of Isabella's crush on Heathcliff? That threw me for a loop. I'm like, what is happening?
Got blinded by the good looks, I guess.
That's, yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. Do you think Catherine and Heathcliff, when they were younger, I know that like Catherine made fun of him, or said like, oh, you're ugly, or stuff like that. But do you maybe think it was like they had a crush when they were younger, and like maybe when they saw each other, like Isabella saw this and she's like, oh my gosh, like I want what you have, like I don't know, because Isabella's younger, right? So I feel like she just wants to be like, oh, I want that. So she's over here crushing, maybe not really on Heathcliff because of looks or obviously personality. She didn't really know him, but more because she envies Catherine.
That could be, yeah, because Catherine has her brother, and then there's also Heathcliff as like the only somewhat available person that maybe she's being exposed to. Could be like a proximity thing.
That's what I was
And the
thinking.
only
Not that many.
person. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that there's not that many, so she's just like, whatever I can get here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
All the men I see you have, I want that,
Plus Heathcliff is like the only person he's nice to, even though he's not even that nice to her, is Catherine. Like that's the only person he actually cares about, even though his way of caring is not great. But like he claims that he loves her and wants to, be with her. So maybe Isabella is attracted to that. But it does say that when he comes back, he's like really good looking. So that might also be a factor, that like he shows up and he looks like a gentleman, even though inside he is not, and he acts not like a proper person either. But yeah, I feel like, what do you guys think though of like their of Heathcliff saying like I love her so much? Like what kind of a love is that? It's a very selfish and toxic love.
They don't know how to like actually care for and be kind and be nice to each other, which is a trip, because it's more like a lot bordering on obsession, versus like this is the person I could never have and who was always next to me, like again proximity since I was young, so it's like a fixation. And then now that Catherine is unattainable, I feel like maybe it made it even worse, like stronger, like okay, he came back and maybe he thought like if she was still single he could have a chance, or things would have transpired differently, which I do feel bad for him on that aspect, because I feel like he kind of didn't really get a chance, although he still is a toxic person. But he keeps pushing, to try to get proximity to Catherine and kind of like get her attention, and then also revenge on Linton. So it's just wild.
Very similar to me to the Great Gatsby.
Oh yes.
With Daisy and Gatsby.
Nick and what was the other guy's name?
Wasn't his name just
Gatsby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember.
Sorry, I named the other character. Nick is the narrator. Nick is also the narrator in that one. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Nick just like observes people. He doesn't really do too much.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mixed them up.
But that is anyone, not to give spoilers on the Great Gatsby.
Who hasn't read
Same
it?
thing happens. He like leaves. He comes back. He's rich. They're in love.
Exceedingly good looking, right?
And then it's just like obsessed with Daisy, even though she's like married and stuff.
Tom, is it Tom, her husband?
Tom
Buchanan, right?
Did any of you? Oh, go ahead, Julie.
Oh, I was a bit confused. Like, I didn't really realize she was pregnant until like
I didn't either.
Because they were like,
it was not clear.
She's sick, or however they said it. I thought she was just sick or heart sick or going psychotic or something.
I thought she was going psychotic.
She was pretending.
Yeah. And then whose baby is it?
Oh, good question.
It's true, because like, when did we even do it?
When did Heath Cliff come
They
back
had-
though too?
Yeah, did they? Did
They had a
make
moment, like-
baby?
They touched hands.
See?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't. He's been back like 9 months, right? It could be. I don't know.
Unclear.
That's a good point though.
So on the note of what Julie said about like unsure whether, or sorry, Judith said, you said like you at first thought she was faking everything. So as this like progressed and as she like, you know, said all of her speeches and then died, did you feel bad for her, or did you feel like she kind of made her bed? And like I mostly did not, but the one moment where I felt a little bad was when she was talking about how like her life is kind of like, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she was kind of saying like my life is like a certain way, and the only time like I feel free like was with him or something. Like I don't remember exactly what she said, and I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I kind of understand that you've like lived this repressed kind of life where you have to conform to stuff, and it's really, you know, probably really constraining, and it feels like, you know, you're not free and stuff like that. But also I feel like she was very manipulative a lot of the time, and so I feel like she's kind of tragic because of what happened, but also I don't know, what did you guys think?
That's a good question. I
I
feel
didn't
like
really
there-
feel anything when she died.
yeah.
So I was like, oh,
Well, there she went.
I was just shocked she was pregnant, because that was like, I just feel like that was very sudden. And you know, they're like, she's dying, and I was like, she's not dying, she's just psychotic. And then it's like she did that. And then I was just thinking about how, like, you know, the high mortality with childbirth, like how that used to be so high. I mean, it still is, but it's a lot lower. That's just crazy.
I think I was more shocked by Heathcliff's reaction, because he was like professing his love, and then all of a sudden he's like, but there's no point, for like, you're not the one suffering, it's been me, and blah blah blah, you don't deserve to be forgiven or whatever. I was just like, damn, okay. I mean, he has a point, because
Yeah.
he did call, or he heard her way back when, that he wasn't worth marrying. So then obviously like he was broken.
There's angst
Yeah.
because of that. Yeah. I feel bad that she got sick, but I also was surprised she was pregnant, but I didn't feel bad that she died. Just because I feel like the parts where she was, you know, the book stated she was really pretending to have like this intense emotional reaction. I felt like that wasn't really nice. But then I was wondering if she really did have a mental disorder. So I was like kind of like feeling bad, but then she died so soon after that. I just feel like I was like, okay. And we kind of knew she died from the beginning, so I don't think I was too surprised. And so then it made me like not really have that much of a reaction.
I think my reaction was more, oh, we finally get to see which Catherine died, and then the other Catherine. That was my like, oh my God, yeah. Not like, oh, she died. And I think it's because she was there. I want to say there was a moment she said, if you don't let, I don't know if it was, if you don't let me be with Heathcliff, or I love him so much. And before she went upstairs and like locked herself out, like she's like, I'm gonna kill myself kind of thing. And I'm just like, that's a little intense. I don't know. And then she wasn't eating, but see, I didn't get the pregnant part. So I'm just like, she's doing this on purpose. Why are you being so dramatic? You love him, you hate this guy, you blah blah. And I'm just like, whatever. So when she died, I was like, oh, okay. I discovered who died, but not really like, oh.
Maybe her life is so like small and kind of empty that the moment that she knows that, like, before she just thought Heathcliff was gone, so maybe she got used to that, but then he comes back and kind of like reignites all these feelings and all of these things in her. And then because Linton's like, oh, you're never going to see him again. And you know, I also thought like, oh, she's just like being manipulative and stuff again, and maybe it did start out that way. But then maybe she realized like, oh, I'm never going to be able to see him again, and what's the point of living anymore? And then she just kind of, just because her life is, if you really think about it, like, what does she have? I mean, her brother is like an awful person. She doesn't really like her husband. She's not very close with her servant. She doesn't seem to have much going on. Like, she doesn't care about her sister-in-law. Like, she doesn't seem like a person that has much
to live for.
Yeah. So maybe when that happens, she just feels like, I don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a merciful play on the author's behalf, because I imagine like Catherine is kind of like a tween or young teenager when she went to the Lintons after she was bitten by the dog and they took her in for so long. I imagine back in those times, somebody would have told her, you better shape up and become like a proper young lady. If not, you're just going to become like an old lonesome maid or something, you know? And maybe she felt at that point she had to like make a choice and just kind of like change her ways slightly so she could have like some prospect of being married. And then Heathcliff was gone, and if she thought he was never coming back, she was like, all right, let me marry Linton. I mean, maybe that would provide her at least some like physical and material comforts rather than being locked in the house with her brother. But I could imagine it would cause a lot of angst if, you know, Heathcliff comes back looking all handsome and she's stuck in this marriage, because kind of like how she's unattainable to Heathcliff, he's also unattainable to her because of that, and especially with her husband saying like, you're never going to see him, and all the drama.
And didn't she like in the beginning say like when Heathcliff Burley came to their house or whatever, I think she was saying like, oh, he's my friend. And then Linton was like, oh, we're eating separate dinners or whatever. And he's like, okay, are you done over there? And then he's like, oh, I'm not staying for long. You know, like it was very like,
it was not welcoming.
Yeah. And it was that whole like upper class and, you know, lower class kind of thing. And I don't know if she said that I belong over here or, you know, like with the lower class instead of with him. I can't remember which one it was, but I feel like obviously that divide, she's like, he was my one friend and then I can't see him. And now he says he likes me, but then he's over here with the sister. And then it's like, what's going on? I'm losing my one friend, my husband, he loves me and everything, but like, she's like in a little jail cell, you know, so yeah.
And the tables are like a metaphor because of how she kind of has to decide between Linton and Heathcliff. Maybe she couldn't decide because maybe she knew she was pregnant and she was like, well, I have a child and I think it's Linton's. So, and then she couldn't like say that. So then she died instead.
Yeah, Linton said that, right? It's like, it's either him or me. And she's like, you know, yeah. But.
I think from like the idealistic part of her thought maybe Linton would be okay with like her hanging out with Heathcliff, but I think there was too much bad blood between the two of them for him to like look beyond that and see maybe Heathcliff was better, but then also we find out he's still not like really a nice person. So I think Linton was kind of right.
Yeah, I think Heathcliff is, I don't know, he's very bitter and he's very, he just really doesn't like people. I mean, with reason, because people treated him really terribly, but it's like that treatment like has turned rotten inside of him. And now he just like wants to hurt people and make people feel crappy and shitty and control people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't like, it's weird though, because I find these characters to not be likable at all, but I find them interesting and I find them kind of like I'm interested to hear about them and what's happening with them, even though I'm like not, I would never want to meet them or know them. And I'm not even sure if I'm rooting for them really. but it's interesting.
It is interesting from like a character and archetype perspective, because I feel like for me, I'm always more interested in the villains in like books and movies, just because I feel like something happened to them and there's a reason they are why they are, versus like a character who's, you know, happy-go-lucky and nothing much is like really going on. Like it's pleasant to read and sometimes it makes you feel happy and good that the character is, you know, doing well, but it's not always as interesting. And I think that, you know, darker characters or evil characters sometimes have more complexity.
Yeah, I was thinking there are complex characters, even though when you think about it, it's just like the two homes.
It's a little hard to hear you, Julie. Sorry. Was it?
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, much better.
Much better.
Okay, I was kind of in the pillow.
Don't fall asleep, Julie.
Yeah, the characters are complex, but then when you think about it, they just live at these two homes. Like they don't have many outside people coming. They don't go to town much. Like it's like they don't do much all day, but they are complex. Cracks me up.
Maybe they'd be less miserable if they had opportunities to.
Out and about.
Yeah. But I do think life back then could be this small, like where you literally like you're in a house your whole life and then you get married and you're in another house and like you go to church and that's it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like I think life was kind of like that back then.
Makes sense. Yeah. Not as much.
I mean, these people are
transportation.
really antisocial, but
Mhm.
still, like your life was probably like not very, you know, you kind of lived in your town and that was it.
I feel like since they are very antisocial, don't you feel like their emotions are like they don't have something to gauge whether they're being too extreme, which makes sense why they're like, oh my gosh, you know, I love you.
They had so few adult models, the three of those characters when they were children. They only had the dad, right? And although the dad liked Heathcliff, I feel like he still wasn't the best model. So that's where I do have a little bit of sympathy for the characters because that's all they knew. But at the same time, because they don't go out and about for whatever reason, or they don't let other people in, like they continue to fester with what they think life should be and just be dissatisfied and kind of mean, because they've never seen anything else.
I really wonder what Heathcliff did while he was gone. Like he didn't get any perspective when he was in the army or whatever he was doing. Like it just seems like he got more and more bitter.
I hope we will find out. I am really curious about that. And then it's interesting how Isabella ended up in the other house and everything's terrible there. I mean, and then her brother is like, you know, she chose to leave. I'm like, okay, like I understand where he's coming from, but I felt like when I was reading what was happening to her, I did feel bad.
Yeah, he's also not, he's not very likable either. Like he's pretty weak and he doesn't, I don't know. I feel like he has all these strong emotions, but he just like acts like he's the proper one and the moral one. And he doesn't really stand up for anything.
Well, the part where he was kind of like almost getting into a physical battle with Heathcliff, I thought was interesting because he pretty much just ran away. But I'm like, well, it's your house. You should try to defend it. But I do think he's like his character is so weak as a foil because Catherine's like character and Heathcliff's characters are so strong and, you know, powerful. So it's like he's like a pale ghost, like besides like what they do and what they're saying and what they're feeling.
What I was gonna mention was something that you said, but I think I was gonna mention earlier before this. I think I'm more excited to see how my family tree is so wrong and what actually belongs where. I look back at it right now and I'm like, oh yeah, that does not go there. That Catherine is this one over here. this nephew thing, no, and it's just so wrong because at first I was confused, and now I'm like, I can kind of, it's becoming more clear who is who and what is what. So
The
yeah,
second Catherine is the wife of his son, right? Heathcliff's son. I'm still a little confused.
The second Catherine isn't that Catherine's daughter?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Thank you.
I thought it was the Catherine we met, the first one. And I was like, oh, she married Linton, and then they're like, nah, I'm gonna marry Heathcliff. But clearly it's not. It's Linton and then the baby.
The one we haven't met is Heathcliff's son, which maybe that's with Isabella.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's the one that died, right?
So then they got married. The son.
Yeah, cousins.
I guess yeah, that's true.
Oh, they could have.
Cousins got married a lot back then.
They could have. Oh my gosh.
Anyone watching House of the Dragon? Speaking of incest.
Dang.
It is interesting how their world is so small but so complex.
Yeah.
Like they must have been so bored, so they'd create all the
All this drama.
drama.
They're wild. Do you guys think the pages, I mean, this one was 80, the next one is 70. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Cool. Chapter 17 to 25. Let me see. 10, 11. Yes. Don't read 26. And also put like the beginning of the little words.
Chapter
Thank you for doing that.
26. Not 27.
Don't read 26.
Oh, don't read 26.
Say a little slower because I am tired.
17 to 25. Don't read 26.
I'm already like, if we like spoilers next time.
Don't
Okay,
read.
Do this. How did we do this in high school? How did we read the right stuff?
I don't know, because I feel like not until book club I was like, wait a second, do we read that one or do we stop there? And then I realized other people do the same, so I'm like, I don't know. Don't read.
Wait, yeah. For me, I ended on volume 2, chapter 3. So is that chapter 17?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So then I just look for.
Don't read. So in your case, don't read chapter 12, which is Summer was already.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nada.
Are we pitching books next
Yes.
time?
What's the theme? We could
Is
do
it
Latino
spooky?
month, or we could do Halloweeny.
I was gonna say we could do any thriller, spooky, or Halloween kind of thing. I talked to Crystal last time I saw her, and we were thinking of different themes for the month. I'm just trying to look for my thingamajigs. Yeah. So we kind of went with October, like spooky thriller, go with the season. November, we were no like specific holiday spoke out at us or like a theme. So we decided, what if we, or it's up in the air if you guys want to do that or suggest something else. Possibly do like biography or a memoir or something that
Like
we
family
haven't
history?
done. Yeah.
I already have a book for that, so.
That's a good idea.
Just because we're like, yeah, we haven't done it. Why not do it? And
biographies are very
December,
good.
we can think about that one. It could be holiday or whatever, but I also feel like suggestions are okay too if you have an idea. But next month for sure, spooky, thriller, scary, you know.
Sweet.
Halloween. There's a lot of those, and I feel like we all
It's been a year since we read Misery, huh?
Yeah.
Did you watch the movie yet, Julie?
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
did.
I haven't rewatched it. I fell asleep.
It's been 2 years since we read My Dark Finesse, and I feel like that was kind of a scary book in a way. So
That one was intense.
if Crystal recommends Dracula, I'm gonna do Salem's Lot, which is the vampire one by Stephen King. I think. How
Does
much
it have
information?
witches too? I love witches. I need a good
Oh.
witch one.
I'm not sure, but I'll look into it because I checked it out from the library and then I had to return it because I didn't have time to read it or even start it. So that one's been on my mind.
So Paula, have you been in the club a year now? Because you read Misery with us, right?
I think longer because
Mhm.
I
She
think I
started-
joined like summer last year.
Yeah.
So over a year
Time
now.
just flies.
It does.
Yeah.
We've been at
When
it a
you're
while.
having fun. Just kidding.
It is. We're having fun, discussing, and getting smarter, which is awesome. And I do really
I'm
appreciate the
actually
check-ins we
reading a
have.
Like digest the book and like have something other than our usual like social media work stuff.
That's good. It's good to have stuff to do like this.
I like that we do it in chunks too, because I think most other book clubs, just for convenience sake, it's like you finish the whole thing. But it's kind of nice to do sections because like you see how people's perceptions like change as the book goes on. And so it's kind of more fun.
Makes me, I used to love, like when I was younger, you'd have to wait till like a Thursday or Wednesday to like watch a new show. Like you couldn't just have it at your fingertips. I mean, I think that's partly why I like Game of Thrones too,
Mm,
but it kind of makes me feel that way because I can't read ahead.
yeah.
I
Which,
feel suspense,
yeah, and that
anticipation.
heading it like that and having to wait and forcing yourself to not continue the story helps me start a different story because I'm like, I must keep reading them. I'm in the mojo, you know, I gotta continue. And I have noticed sometimes I'm in the mojo of just listening. Other times I'm like, no, I want to read. And I'm like, you know, instead of watching a show or something. Right now I'm in the watching shows, but I'm not mad.
I like too that it's made me read books I probably might not have read otherwise. And also I do like the side book thing. I'm halfway through the history book of like Henry VIII's wives, and it's just interesting. They were also mean to me.
It's covering all of his wives.
Yeah, it's like a big section for each, but I'm halfway through now, and the halfway point is like only 2 wives have been covered. And so I noticed that there's another 2 wives that share a chapter, but it mostly just talks about like the beginning of how they got married to him. And I was hoping it would be more all-inclusive because I mean, this is like grotesque, but I kind of wanted to know more about like how they came to have their heads chopped off, the 2 of them. So I'll have to read something else about that. But it's very interesting to find out like how they did come to meet him or marry him, and kind of talking about the servant thing. Like Anne Boleyn was a servant or handmaiden to like Catherine of Aragon, and I think that when Anne Boleyn was queen, then Jane Seymour was one of her ladies in waiting. So then I'm like, oh, interesting.
Once again, they just keep it in the family. Like, oh, I gotta choose from what I have here.
Yeah.
Why
Why not to go outside their houses?
Well, the one that I think I forget if it's Anne of Cleves or which one it is that was like so short because he saw a picture of her. Like this was someone he didn't know. He saw a picture of her and he's like, oh, I like her. And then when she came in person, he claimed that she was like not like her picture and he sent her back. Like it didn't last.
Well, at least they
I think
survived,
it's Anne
right?
of Cleves.
Who was the other one that got her head cut off? I don't know. So
Catherine Howard, and
Howard?
then Catherine Parr is the last one. I think Catherine.
Yeah.
I think Catherine
Yeah.
Parr is the one that outlived him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting definitely to hear like about how the different countries like perceived what King Henry was doing, then the new religion that he made, and just, you know, the politics of it. It's pretty interesting to me.
Weren't there super popular books that someone came out with and they made a movie out of it?
There's the other Boleyn girl, and then there's also those Stars series, like the White. Well, that's earlier, but the Spanish Princess is Catherine of Aragon, and they did one of like some of the earlier, like not Cat Henry VIII, but some of the earlier ones too. But
Yeah,
the other Boleyn girl, I read the book too. It was all right. It was kind of, it honestly felt like really soapy, like to the point where I was like, this doesn't seem like it happened like that.
That's the one I was thinking of, the other Boleyn girl.
Yeah.
I
I haven't seen
book.
the movie yet.
I saw the movie. I think it was interesting. Scarlett Johansson is in it for some reason, but and then I think Natalie Portman.
Yeah, she plays Anne Boleyn and Scarlett plays Mary Boleyn. The other Boleyn.
The other.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole time I was reading, I was like, I mean, this is fun, but this seems so exaggerated. Like, I think that history, I'm going on a tangent, but I feel like history like portrays Anne as like this slut, and I don't really think that's the real truth. Like that, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, Karina, you're reading the book, but I feel like she was like opportune and she got in at the right time, but I don't think she was just like hoeing around everywhere. like
No,
all
she
these other
wasn't.
things.
Because in fact, I mean, of course we can never know, but the book is like full of treatment too. It kind of says like that they didn't like get together in that way until after, like everything was pretty much locked and loaded, because it said like she kept the king waiting. And that I think she is like definitely framed as a temptress, but I just do think that she was probably trying to like do the best that she could for herself. And plus Catherine of Aragon was already older and the king really wanted an heir, a male heir. So I feel like if anything, that also was what was pushing him to start looking around and, you know, explore different options like he had, because he was the king, even though he was mean.
Yeah, what a messy dude.
I think he was like, when he died, he was oozing out of his coffin. He was so large and had like some kind of disease.
Yeah, he was very, very corpulent.
Yeah, when he was young, he was like viewed as really handsome and really strong. And then that changed.
Yeah, for sure. And if it wasn't for Anne Boleyn, there wouldn't be Queen Elizabeth. So, I mean, that's a positive.
Yeah, so many things happened because of what he did, like all of the stuff with, you know, like the Church of England and Catholicism in Britain, and all of the wars and conflict that happened after that was all because he was just like, I want to get divorced, so I'm going to make a church.
He's making his own church because Catholicism does not allow for divorce.
Yeah, and it like impacted so much.
I don't know a lot about history. I just remember watching the movie once, I think in one of my history classes, and I was like, wow, this is actually interesting.
I do like history, and I was almost going to donate this book because I've had it for so long, but I said, okay, let me read it before I donate it. And it's good because it's like engaging enough where if I'm awake, I can read like maybe through 10 pages. It takes me a while because it's kind of like this book. It has like more language that I don't see on the daily. But if I'm tired, like 2 pages, I'm like knocked out.
Perfectly sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'll put up the pages and then
bring your pitches for next time.
Yeah.
Spooky pitches.
We'll see how it goes. I think, oh no, Halloween is on a Monday. So it gets on a Tuesday, but it's not.
The teacher should have it off.
Oh, that means my birthday's on a Wednesday. Great. Gross.
Oh yeah, it's coming up.
Wednesdays are not a good birthday day.
My birthday is on a Tuesday, and we get like the Monday off because it's still close to New Year's. I hardly ever have to go to work on my birthday. So I'm probably gonna not go. I'll just come in the day after my birthday.
Good or bad? I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
How are you doing that trip to New Orleans? Is that happening?
Yeah, I'm going mid-November though.
Nice.
Oh, cool. That's right.
Yeah. I'm just going with Amanda. We're just gonna go for like 4 days. So hopefully it's
Enough.
not sketchy and it's fun. Hopefully.
Well, with
I
her, it'll be
honestly,
slightly
it can't be
sketchy.
sketchier than where I live. I live in LA. It can't be sketchier and more dangerous than LA, really.
You're right. So it's good to have a lawyer when you're being sketchy.
True. Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I'll see you all. Have a good night. Have a
Good
good rest
night.
of your week.
Night. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.